Hello, and welcome to another episode of ChargersCast. I'm your host, Kirk Brewer, and having been a Chargers fan for more than 40 years, my goal bringing ChargersCast to you is to bring a unique perspective to our beloved Los Angeles, former San Diego Chargers. We are a podcast by fans, for fans, so we appreciate you being here and hanging out with us. This week I've got with me my regular buddy and diehard Chargers fan as well. I've got Andrew Loya from Bolt Casa hanging out this week. Our other friend to the podcast, Brendan, wasn't able to make it, so hopefully we get him back next week. How's it going?
It's good. It feels good to obviously come off of a victory, you know?
Yes, we get to salute a victory again this week. Last week, it was just simply kind of drowning our sorrows in the loss. But a W is a W, you know.
Always.
Doesn't matter how pretty or ugly they are. It still counts all the same on the record. So got another W to talk about.
That's right.
So in this podcast, we are going to cover the Week 13 road game against the Atlanta Falcons. And then we're going to roll into Week 14 road game against the hated rival Kansas City Chiefs. All right. And so let's get going on it. Kind of do like we do every podcast, Andrew. Kind of hit some high level stuff first, then we can kind of drill down on both sides of the ball, share our observations and our thoughts on the game, and then we'll roll into KC. So we were able to pull out the win, you know, which is a beautiful thing. I was telling myself after this game, you know, speaking of high-level thoughts on the game, I'm like, we would have lost this game 100%. 100% we would have lost this game last season. Not even open for debate. We would have lost this game. And this is a big difference between the new regime is we're learning how to win those ugly, close games. Maybe not to the level of the Chiefs yet, because quite frankly, have they had anything that wasn't an ugly win this season? I think they're all ugly, but they win them. Okay. What was it, 19-17 that they just beat the Raiders, and they should have lost that freaking game, but the Raiders raided, right, on the last play. It's nice to pass that mantle off to another team. The Raiders raided. I mean, that's something the Chargers would have done in the past, dude, is fumble the snap when you're in field goal range. Are you effing kidding me to give the Chiefs another win? If the Chiefs had lost that game, we would still be optimistically in striking distance of those guys, knowing we've got one head-to-head with them this coming week, right?
Right.
And they've still got a tough schedule. They got Pittsburgh still on their schedule, and they got a couple more tough games. But with them pulling that one out, man, it's going to take – there's 5 games left. It's going to take something really unexpected that would come up where we could potentially take those guys down and win the division. So that just kind of a thought there. This was the third game of kind of what we had defined here, at least on the pod, as kind of a tough 4-game stretch. And we're going to roll into that 4th game here Sunday night in the Arrowhead. This game was super competitive. It was way more competitive than I think we thought it was going to be. Almost too competitive. Defense, there's a theme with the defense all year, right? Bend, don't break, make them punt, make them kick field goals. That was a theme on the defense this week too. Throw in a few awesome interceptions, which we'll drill down on. Offense, same thing, man. It's just kind of below average. Justin and Ladd had it going on in the first half. I mean, literally 99% of Justin's yards were to Ladd. At one point, Ladd had 115 of Justin's 120 or something like that in the first half. But then we had a letdown in the second half and literally only put up like 40 yards of offense, 42 yards of offense in the second half. I don't know if when the game was playing, if you noticed this. As the game was watching, and I'm not seeing any statistics, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, all of the penalties are going against the Chargers. I'm sitting there going, I can't recall any of the penalties going against the Falcons. Well, once the game was over and I'm getting ready for the pod, I went and looked that up. 7 penalties against the Chargers, 2 against the Falcons. Okay, so what I was feeling as I was watching it actually was the case. I mean, we had 3.5 times more penalties than they had, and we're one of the least penalized teams in the league. So that felt weird to me. Another high level thing, just kind of encapsulates the whole game. Time of possession, 25 minutes for us, 35 minutes for them. So love to hear your kind of big overreaching observations and thoughts from the game as well.
For me, it was like a little concerning overall when you just look at the team, because coming into the game, it was like, all right, here's an opportunity later into the season to let's see how we can fix the things that aren't exactly going so well with us. And we did not necessarily take a step in the right direction. And I'm talking about the offense here. The defense continues to do what they do and do a good job at doing what they do. But the offense, it's like, what is going on? To this point, it is a little concerning. And the unfortunate thing is I just thought that this was a perfect opportunity with a Falcons team who came into this game with the worst pass rush in the NFL, and they improved that number by a large margin. Yeah. So they teed off on us to some extent, and that was just really unfortunate. So that was really disheartening to see when it comes to the offense. I just thought this was a perfect game for us to kind of get some things right. So there's a lot to unpack in this game, but overall it was a little concerning. You have to be happy with the win. A win is a win. But I mean, you can't ignore the fact that we got those interceptions and those turnovers. Just really, it was almost like it was gift wrapped to us to some extent. It's hard to lose a game when you got that many turnovers. So glad we got that one. Another game that the Chargers are supposed to win, and we took care of business, got it done. But at the end of the day, as we move forward with closing this stretch, I'd like to just kind of know how you feel expectation-wise, and what is kind of what can we expect going forward, and is that going to be, is it a reasonable expectation kind of thing? We'll see.
Yeah, I think later on in the pod, I'd love to drill down on that bigger issue of kind of expectations going forward after witnessing 12 games, because I think I've gotten, we know who we are now, kind of like Denny Green. We know who they are. We kind of know who the Chargers are at this point, based on roster, based on scheme, based on 12 games of performance. So I do want to get into that later on in the pod, but a couple things that you touched on there that interest me a lot. Probably the biggest, because they're out there. Okay. When you're talking about concerns, and most of those concerns are on the offense. And by the way, we would have lost this freaking game if Tarheeb did not get that pick six, because Younghoe Koo missed his first field goal. Okay, so that would have been another 3 points they had on us. We needed every ounce of that pick six because our offense could not score. But that being said, when you're talking about these concerns, are you pinning those on Greg Roman? Is Greg Roman at fault here? Because there's a lot of people who are definitely going to be Greg Roman.
No, I mean, so at the end of the day, when you have this conversation, I think Greg, I think, would take, hey, that's a little bit of my responsibility. Does this offense, I am the offensive coordinator, of course. Yeah. But really, I just see a cast. I see an interior offensive line that just really doesn't have it. And I see a group of wide receivers that are really not playing to a level that's acceptable outside of Ladd. I mean, Palmer and QJ having 2 receptions with less than 20 yards, it's unacceptable. We don't expect these guys to, be putting up 1,000 yards this year. What they are contributing is just unacceptable. Yeah, there's a few good plays here and there. That's great. But that's kind of like what I'm seeing is I'm just seeing kind of the supporting cast just playing at a level that is unacceptable.
Gotcha. And I really wanted to elaborate on that because the haters are going to be out there bashing on Giro. Of course, he's the offensive coordinator. He has a role in it, but this is something we could do a whole nother pod on regarding the roster, where we're at, and what we need next season. And I think once this season's over, we'll have that pod about the current roster, who's free agents, who do we need to re-sign, draft, all that. But there's more going on after 12 weeks, 12 games. I think anybody who really tries to study football and watch it and see what's what, we have personnel deficits. That's the only way you can put it. Joe Ortiz could not solve the entire roster in one off season as the brand new GM. He couldn't do it. Okay. So he did the best he could. And then we've got an incredible coaching staff and what I believe are awesome schemes on both sides of the ball that have gotten us to 8-4, which we would probably be 4-8 under the previous regime. And that's if we're lucky. Okay. So, Giro bears some responsibility, but, one of the things I really wanted to make clear after kind of having this team assessment after 12 weeks was, personally, after looking at who we are and what we're doing, this team is overachieving. In my book, hands down, they are overachieving. And that is not a negative on this team whatsoever. In fact, I would say it's a positive. That the people who are on this team and the pieces that Ortiz has brought in, you cannot praise Joe Ortiz enough for the draft he had. Look at everybody who's contributing out of that draft. And we've got some studs. And it, of course, starts with Joe Alt, right? I mean, that kid's killing it, but he can't do it all, right? You can't do it everything from the tackle position. We know we've got an interior offensive line that needs serious upgrades at some point between now and the start of next season. And we need more skill positions, right? We need at least a wide receiver 1 or 1A to Ladd. Maybe QJ steps up, but not seeing it yet. I think he's going to be a role player based on what he's doing. And we do need that pass catching tight end. I don't know where we get him, but we need that pass catching tight end. That is a chess piece in this offense. Look at what Mark Andrews does. We look at obviously Kelsey and those guys. We need that chess piece. They're trying to. Disley's a poor man's Kelsey. Okay, Disley's balling for us. He's having the best receiving season he's had in his entire career, but he's not that guy, saying. So I don't want to belabor it at this point, but you brought up that part of the game from a big viewpoint, and it's worth noting at this point that let's place responsibility or blame, if you want to call it that, really where it lies. And I don't think anybody's responsible in a negative way. This team is being rebuilt, retooled, whatever you want to call it, but they weren't going to get it all done in one season. So we should, as fans, we should be thrilled to see that this team can still win these games with these deficits. And I'll kind of leave it there, but if you got something to add to it, by all means.
I just want to say that, rebuilt from the studs, this is probably going to be the worst that a Jim Harbaugh team is going to look. This is the bottom of the barrel as far as we go forward in this era. So, like you said earlier, we're definitely overachieving, and I'm super stoked that we're not just slapping some paint over this and spending money here and there to this might make a difference on a shootout, but at the end of the day, it's what we're doing is the right decision. So I'm really happy about that. And kind of going back to the Greg Roman thing, I do think it's not so much on him. I like I like what I see from Greg Roman, especially with the offense that he has. But it does say a lot when last week, I can't remember the exact number, but I thought I said we handed the ball off 3 times in the second half.
Yeah.
Well,
that was the number you said. Yeah.
So I just want to ask you how many times, and I don't know if you know, how many times do you think we handed the ball off in the second half against the Falcons?
I don't know. I could turn to my screen over here.
Just take a
look
guess.
It up, but based on my gut feeling, I'm going to go with 3 again.
We handed the ball off 2 times. That tells me, what does that tell you guys?
As a coach, it tells me that the interior line can't block for shit. He's missing J.K. Dobbins, and he's putting it in Justin's hands.
Exactly.
That's what it tells me.
If I'm a coach and I'm handing the ball off twice, that tells me I got to find a way to execute. If I have to find a way to get a solution, well, the best opportunity is through Justin. Unfortunately, even if that means pass after pass. When you think about Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, it's like that's not their recipe. That's not what they believe in. That is not the philosophy going forward. And it's funny you mentioned tight end. That's a whole nother thing that I could tangent off that I'm not going to do. I'm going to nip it here. But It just goes right back to it's the cast and it's what you're working with. And he's just doing the best that he can to find I would do the same thing as a coach. I'd go, now I'm just going to give to Justin the seconds that are left with him in the ball. There's an opportunity for something. So
yeah, Justin, find a way. Here's the play, and feel free to change it.
100%, man.
Right? It's we can touch on the offense. Okay, 187 total yards, 147 passing, 56 rushing, 145 yards in the first half. 42 yards in the second half. Okay. That's more than just not feeling comfortable running the ball because we know Justin could put up 300 yards in the second half. That is a bigger issue. They sacked us 5 times. The interior of our offensive line is an issue. I don't see any solutions for the remaining games we've got this season, 5 regular season and however many postseasons we can eke out, but we are who we are at this point, and they're trying to make do with what they got. And I believe it's a really good assessment to say, look, this may be the worst we ever are under Harbaugh, Giro, and Mentor. And no, turning it over to Justin, have him throw it 50 times a game or 40, whatever it was, that is not their week in and week out recipe. They're not afraid to do it if this week calls for it, but that isn't their recipe for success. This offensive line, remember, as these guys came in, they want to be physical, right? That's one of the first things. We want to be physical. We want to own the trenches. This offensive line isn't able to do that for them. They've got their spurts, but on a consistent basis, this offensive line cannot dominate the defensive line. And we saw that with this Atlanta team, right? And it's a recurring theme. We saw it in Pittsburgh. We saw it with friggin' Cardinals. We saw it with Baltimore. To a certain extent, we saw it with the Browns, right? Garrett, he was killing us in the first half, right? We adjusted and provided some help and changed up some things. And then we saw it in this game. These guys, they played us. They were more physical than we were. And we were lucky to eke out a win. Thank goodness to our defense. So the reason maybe we are belaboring this is it's really an important point for those fans who may be disappointed that we're not more dominant at this stage of the game. We are further along than a lot of people gave us credit for in season 1 of the new Harbaugh era. We're 8-4, man. Odds are 93, 94, 95%, maybe more than that now that we're the 6th seed the 5th seed. We're the top wild card seed. The odds are super high that we're going to make the playoffs, right? Which, after what we've been through in our recent history, that's a win. That's a win. Like I said, this team they're definitely overachieving in season 1, and it's a hallmark to everybody involved, including the players. And quite frankly, I don't know if you guys saw Harbaugh's post game, but he also gave kudos to the fans, and I think that's huge. This team is used to not having good representation. It's usually at best 50-50 between the team that's in the stadium as a guest and our fans. That is changing, and so just keep on keeping on, man. This good things are coming our way, but understand who we are right now. We're missing JK. That was one of my notes for the offense. His absence is very conspicuous, and it's going to continue to be for 3 more weeks at least. One of the things I noted, and I hope this is the case, I don't know what your thoughts or feelings or if you've heard anything on this, but it's my hope that this, more than anything, is out of an abundance of caution, that they put him on IR and forced him to rest up for 4 weeks for 2 reasons. The biggest one is they want to have him fresh for this run that we're likely going to have to get into the playoffs. But also because of his injury history, given an opportunity to really heal up. So that was kind of my thoughts on them going ahead and doing that. Our 3rd down conversions they sucked. We were 3 for 11. Ladd, note on Ladd, he's a real deal. No questions. That kid can ball. DJ Chark was active. I saw him on the field. I think I actually saw him between the white lines. Didn't get a single target. Non-factor. So it's kind of my observations on the offense specifically.
I would agree with you with the JK thing. I think it just goes back to looking at the situation and go, what's the best opportunity to win going forward? As we approach and hopefully get into the postseason, I think that's a smart thing to do with JK, is just be patient. Don't rush this. Don't force this. They believe in this team, and they know that we're going to make it work, and we'll bring them out when we're ready. So I agree there. And then with the 3rd down conversions, yeah, Ladd, I think, is exceeding expectations as a player. I thought he was going to be good. I didn't think he was going to be this good. He is playing lights out. He's getting a ton of recognition from a lot of media outlets, and it's just showing on the field. Literally, we don't have guys around him that are doing much. When you talk about the 2 outside guys getting 2 receptions the whole game, shoot, I mean, yeah, a big hand for Ladd. That's awesome. Yeah, it's I don't know, man.
I think he's probably Justin's favorite target at this point.
Yeah, I think you might be onto something right there. I think that's probably the case.
Yeah, I think he feels really comfortable with Ladd. He's going to be where he's going to be. He's going to get open.
Yeah.
So, talk a little bit about the defense, and we could talk a lot about the defense because they won the game. Okay, let's just start right there. The defense won this game, period. Now, we allowed 350 total yards, 245 passing, 116 rushing. While I was watching the game, the rushing felt like we were doing worse than 116 yards. It felt like they were kind of running on us a little bit more than I liked. But when I looked at the stats, I went, 116, that's not too bad. But I thought Bijan Robinson was kind of gashing us there for a bit. But only to 116 total to the whole team. And some of those, while they had 10 minutes more time of possession. So clearly they were sustaining some drives. But our defense, 4 interceptions. So that ended 4 drives. They punted multiple times as well. We got them off the field. Their first drive, they drove down the field on us. Remember, they won the coin toss and they accepted the ball, drove down the field. We held them from getting in the end zone. And Young Wei Koo pushed the kick. I guess he was suffering from a hip injury, but that was the only one he missed, by the way. Bless his heart. But that felt sweet, right? I'm like, awesome. Okay, this is going to set the tone for the game. We're going to go down. We're going to put a touchdown on the board. We hand the ball to what's his name? Haskins. And he fumbles the damn thing. Yeah. So give it right back to him. They go down and score a touchdown. Our run defense right now is average. Again, we're bend don't break. That's kind of been us all season. Between the 20s, we're giving up space, and then we tighten up and either make them punt or kick a field goal most of the time. We had pretty good pressure on Kirk Cousins, pressure-wise, but I think we had 1 sack, and we had all 4 of our edge playing in this game. I was a little surprised that we did not get more pressure and actually get some sacks on this guy. He's not mobile.
No.
Okay. You know where he's going to be. Now, that probably makes it a little bit easier on the line because they know where he's going to be. So it's not like, hey, this guy's going to get squirrely on us. But we barely laid hands on the guy, which I was a little disappointed in. Even though we still got pressure, caused him to throw some errant balls, obviously, which was good. Tarheeb, dude, that kid balled out. So much so that apparently he got a drug test notice sitting in his locker when he came in.
They just came marching in. They're like, well.
They're like, yeah, this rook's kind of, he's probably got some performance-enhancing drugs in his system. But the kid balled out. And like I said earlier, if it weren't for his pick 6, we aren't winning this game. So it's a team sport. It's the ultimate team sport. And by the way, Dicker, 3 for 3, might as well spill over to special teams. So special teams held up their end of the bargain. Defense played lights out for the most part.
Yeah, no, I think you covered mostly everything that is kind of going on and happened with the defense. I wouldn't call it a resurgence, but it was really nice to see Derwin James kind of pop off on the film a little bit here and get a little sparky in some areas. I really appreciated that, and it just made me really happy for Derwin more than anything. I mean, it's great for us, but for him, it's like, all right, let's get some of that old Derwin back, because I feel like he's been playing good, but he's great. Derwin James is a great safety. There's just kind of been a little bit of a dip in some production and, in some areas. He still hits hard. He is still sound as a football player, but that electrifying superstar kind of thing has kind of been missing a little bit. And I feel like we got a little bit of it back in this game. So that made me really happy. And then, Tarheeb still, that was just probably the biggest thing that stood out to me. Little stud. It makes me so happy. I'm like, shoot, all right. There's another guy I just might consider a jersey,
Yeah.
Because this is a rookie and he's playing without, some of the other Denzel Perriman making waves in the middle of the defense. So there's pressure on the outside guys right now, a lot of pressure. And he took it full fold, and I'm really appreciative of it.
Yeah, I mean he was on it, man. He had 3 tackles, 3 pass defenses, 2 INTs. He had a great game. I'm glad you mentioned Denzel. He was my last note. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to point out, because I'm really into the off season when it comes to the draft, and I did so many mock drafts where I picked Cam Hart for the Chargers numerous times. Just playing around, he was on my radar, big, over 6 foot corner, who could play man. He was all over my board, but I did not see Tarheeb anywhere. He was not someone that I didn't see anyone talking about him. I didn't know anything about him. And then I just see this kid who just balls out. It's awesome. We're so fortunate to have two corners that are killing it. And then just at the level that he's playing at is really exciting.
To put it in perspective, in 1994, we had a 5th round pick, safety, that we picked in the 5th round. He did not start that entire season, and that's the season we went to the Super Bowl. The guy I'm talking about, actually, it was the guy who was playing safety in that position that season was his name was like Sheriff or something like that. I don't know why it's escaping me right now. Probably because he wasn't that great. He was getting burned a lot. But we made it to the Super Bowl, so he wasn't too bad. But I'm talking about Rodney Harrison, dude. Rodney Harrison's a 5th-round pick. Okay. A lot of people don't know Trent Green used to play for the Chargers. He was a 7th-round pick of Bobby Beathard. So there are gems. Look at Tom Brady. Okay. Joe Montana's a 3rd-round pick. So, I mean, there are gems to be had. And I don't think this is the podcast for it, but at the same time, I don't think we can, and I don't want to go to his head. Okay. I want to keep him the modest person that he is, but I don't think we can praise Joe Ortiz enough for what he's done in a short period of time. Dude, this May kid, they just signed him a couple days ago, and the guy's getting his first INT. And now hearing some backstory on the guy, supposedly this kid's super smart, is highly regarded coming out of college. Don't quite know his whole story of how he ended up being a free agent and us being able to pick him up. But I don't think this guy's trash. I think this guy's actually got something. And, again, we had a need. Ortiz found a guy, and he literally had to start, or at least play some snaps anyway. And he makes a play. Amazing. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it just shows that his coaching staff is awesome. For the same reasons why we're playing a little conservative, maybe with some injuries, is we can count on the coaches to get it done. So with Alohi being out, is it who's starting for Alohi right now?
Jefferson.
Okay.
Or they may have moved Molden. Molden is also a safety.
That was my question: is where exactly is Molden kind of playing around?
He may be playing Alohi's slot.
Okay.
And then Fulton and Tarheeb are playing the starting DBs.
And that's the thing that makes it really confusing for me, at least. They play, when they're playing nickel, they're playing dime, they're moving Derwin everywhere. It's kind of that's where I'm where does Elijah play? Where they do so much with these guys, which is a testament to the coaching and the players that they got on the defense side of the ball. So,
and maybe finishing up on the defensive side about Derwin. I'm wondering if Derwin maybe still has a little PTSD from his Staley days. Staley just, I don't want to say he misused him. I think Staley had a man crush on him like any coach would, but he tried to put a cape on him and say, you do everything. And I don't think that was the best way to use Derwin. It's you can do everything, but not at the same time. For this play, you're this role, or this game, you're this role. And you're seeing Derwin now become Derwin again. I mean, he had at least 3 flash plays, right? A couple tackles for loss on big plays too, where he slashed behind the line of scrimmage and tackled the backs. And then, of course, that 4th interception there. So, it's great to have Derwin back.
Yeah, it wasn't like Kyle Pitts did anything. He didn't, and it's not like he has really developed into the prospect that a lot of people thought he was going to. But you got to give Derwin credit there. Derwin does a good job when it comes to taking care of his assignment, and not having a lot on his plate is really important. I just think it's a little unnecessary, really. What he's good at, let him do that.
Yeah,
let him lay him down. Don't stack his plate with all this crazy stuff that we saw with Staley, and we're getting back to that. And next week is going to be a good test for that.
Yeah. I think, one of the things the players talk about with mentor system is it's very teachable. It can look complex to opposing offenses, but it's actually a pretty simple system. And there's a lot to be said for that, because, these guys are trying to run around with their hair on fire at 100 miles an hour and make plays. It's hard sometimes to be thinking A, B, C, D, E, versus A and B. If it's A, I do this. If it's B, I do that. So hats off to Mentor for having a system that's highly effective. and easy for the guys to learn. And I think May is a testament to that. They said this kid had his nose in his playbook for 2 days, practiced one day, and he's on the road playing, snaps for us in Atlanta. And then just wrap up defense here. Denzel Perryman's presence clearly is missed in the middle, especially without Colson. So Denzel, he's not on IR. He's just licking his wounds. So hopefully we get him back for this game, because I believe if we're going to roll into KC, I do believe Pacheco's back. And they brought Hunt in, so they could have kind of a little 1-2 punch there. And we're going to need the hammer in the middle of our defense and Denzel. So hopefully he's mended up these last 2 weeks, and we get him back, because his, just like the absence of JK on offense, absence of Perryman on defense it's glowing. So you don't really have a thumper to take his spot.
No, it's a bummer that Junior Colson's out. I was really looking forward to him to have some production even as a rookie. I had really high expectations for him. I mean, shoot, if I'm being honest, I had him as just an overall, looking at a prospect in college. Dayon is playing awesome right now. But if I was looking at them, if I were to put them in the same draft class, what I'm seeing with the eye test is Junior Colson is like supposed to be this better linebacker. So I'm just saying it would have been really nice to have his presence here as well, but he's not. It is what it is. And to just kind of wrap up my thoughts on the overall defense, other than the last 2 weeks, I think it hasn't been going as great as it has been. But prior to the last 2 weeks, the getting stops on third down, just getting the offense off the field, it was just such a fresher breath air considering what we came from last year. And that's been one of the best feelings about this year when it comes to the defense.
Yeah, for sure. And that makes a huge difference. I mean, we aren't getting them all.
No.
There are a few that it's like, you should have got that one, but you can't get them all. But yeah, it's a huge, huge improvement over years past. So hats off to Mentor. And speaking of Colson, right? I mean, the expectations for him, on top of the fact that he's coming into a system he already knows. So I think we all kind of had pretty high expectations for him. In fact, I think as we reflect back, I want to say you were thinking they'd probably have him starting by week 3, and Denzel would just be a role player. Have Denzel start maybe the first 3 games and have Colson come in and spell him, and then that would kind of switch, and Colson was supposed to be the green dot, yada, 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 yada. Just didn't pan out that way.
No. And it just, I can't help but think about like how Dayon sat on the sideline all year last year. And then here we got a kid who's, if he keeps this up, is going to be in the Pro Bowl.
And instead we played Kenneth Murray.
Yeah, he is playing at Donnie Edwards pace linebacker, you guys. So Charger fans, those of you who know, like the old saying.
If you know who the F Donnie Edwards is, yeah.
Like me, I'm 33 years old. When I became a Chargers fan, as a little kid looking at the screen, the name on defense I always heard over and over was Donnie Edwards on the tackle. Other than is it Mario Williams? Defensive tackle, big guy. Who am I thinking of? Williams in the middle. Jamal Williams. So outside, it was those two for me. But Donnie, just over and over, was a name I always heard. So just wanted to compliment Dayon, because that is truly really good company to be mentioned in. Yeah,
Dayon's balling, dude, and his tackle numbers are off the charts. And a little trivia for this 40-plus year Chargers veteran. For those of you who don't know, maybe you're a little bit younger, Donnie Edwards was actually drafted by the Chiefs and had a very successful career for the Chiefs. And he's a San Diego guy. Okay, so he's born and raised in San Diego, gets drafted by the freaking Chiefs, and he's a pain in our ass for years, okay, until he finally becomes a free agent and we get him on our team. And he still had a lot of tread on the tires, like Andrew's saying. Donnie Edwards on the tackle. Donnie Edwards on the tackle. Donnie Edwards on the tackle. He was an animal, and he's still a good dude. I think he still lives in San Diego and does his thing. So
yeah, and like just before we move on, it's like that's the big thing that when I look at this team is the things that are going really good with this team is it really puts a smile on my face. I am so optimistic about what is to come, and I think we have our feelings and expectations about what we could possibly do this year, but overall the things that are going good for this team are really bright.
I think we summed it up. The team's overperforming in its first season, I think, and this may be the worst of it. Right? They're having to clean up the mess that was left before them to then go forward the way they want to go forward. And this first season is a mix of a little bit of the old and some of the new. So it's Chiefs week, dude. I've got mixed emotions about it. Okay. I get excited about it because I'd love to see us kick the Chiefs' ass. But I had hoped we would be further along at this point in the season when this game rolled around and be better in some aspects, especially on offense, when this game rolled around. So we've touched on it already where our shortcomings are. And the Chiefs' strength, I believe, is their defense. And our weakness is our offense.
Yeah.
Our strength is our defense. Their weakness, if you want to call it that, is their offense. But you give Mahomes and Andy Reid 50 seconds and they need a field goal to win the game. They come up with it more times than not. So just a couple notes, kind of general. Chiefs are coming off another ugly win. 19-17 over the Raiders. Anybody who watched that game, if we haven't coined the term, we're coining it here. The Raiders raided on the second to last play of the game because I think there was enough time on the clock that the Chiefs had to take a knee. But the Raiders got it all the way down into field goal range. They were on like the 29-yard line, and they fumbled the snap. And the Chiefs recover. Game over. So the Raiders raided. It would have been nice for them to hand the Chiefs their second loss. The Chiefs are not dominating on offense this season. They've got their moments, but they're definitely not dominant. So they're gettable. It's just, are we equipped right now to get them? They're gettable, right? Buffalo got them. They're gettable. But they're just finding ways to win, being scrappy, getting that play when they need it, getting the penalty when they need it. Enough said on that. Their defense is their strength. So a couple stats. Their offense, they're 15th in yards per game, 12th in passing, 19th in rushing. Their offense is averaging 24 points per game. Not lighting the world on fire by any stretch. Their defense, 8th best in yards allowed, 23rd against the pass, 3rd against the run, and they are averaging 20 points per game allowed.
The one that sticks off to me is 3rd against the run. And that's like, no one's surprised. Like, we all know what they do well.
We all know that big boy in the middle. He's a terror.
Yeah. So I think it's just so the biggest thing that sticks out to me in this matchup is clearly when we played them, we had Justin on some banged up feet. We didn't have Rashawn Slater and we didn't have Joe Alt in that game, and it was close. So, and I'm sure there's more players that were probably missing that weren't available in the early part of the season in that matchup. So as far as a roster goes, we're walking into it in a little bit better shape outside of maybe JK and Denzel, obviously. But that's a little optimistic when you think about that. But the offensive line, I can't imagine that this isn't like the game where the run game just clicks and it's back. Like if we're only handing the ball off, when I say it out loud, boy, it just makes this matchup that much intriguing. I think that get ready for Justin Herbert to sling it and play some hero. It is time to put the cape on. That's just kind of obvious of what we're probably going to get in this matchup. But that does make me happy that at least this time around the offensive line is here.
Well, we've got our stud tackles. Yeah, it's funny, Andrew. You and I are absolutely on the same page, dude. Keys to the game, my offensive notes. Forget having a balanced attack. Go after their weakness and pass the ball. I'm okay if we get into a shootout with these guys because on defense, we have quality edge rushers and quality defensive backs. So this is one of the few times you're going to hear me say, screw it. Don't even pretend like you're going to run the ball. Pass the shit out of the ball until they are playing the pass so heavily that then, you do some token, runs and see if you can bust a few. But I'm okay getting in a shootout because I think we can outgun these guys.
Yeah, most definitely.
Now, it's all hands on deck. Okay, Ladd, Chark, QJ, Palmer, Disley, Ray. All these guys got to show up. Justin's got to have somebody to throw the damn ball to, but
yeah, my keys to the game definitely is Jawan Taylor. 100% is always going to be an issue when it comes to
liability, dude.
Totally. And then whatever we did last time we played them, as far as containing Patrick and making sure that he had, not much room on the outside to escape. Keep that whole thing going. Whatever that was, let's do that again. I honestly, at this point, I know this kind of sounds weird, but like I wouldn't hate some design runs with Justin. Why not? Because look at this offense. We're not doing anything other than Ladd, and Ladd has a lingering shoulder issue right now. Kudos to that guy. That little guy is just getting whacked out there, just falling to the ground. Don't blame him 100%. But at this point, like if we're really like, hey Justin, freaking run, dude. Like whatever we got to do it. So I wouldn't mind some design runs on that end.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's on my list too, is we need to let Justin run. We got to, because it's going to keep them honest, if they are slinging the ball, they still got to pay attention to him because he can get out of the pocket and he's fast. People don't realize how fast this guy is. And then you touched on Ladd. I don't know if you remember this. It was probably maybe week 3 or week 4. I made a comment about Ladd that he needs to get with Ben Herbert and he needs to get in the weight room.
Yeah.
Because what I was noticing, and I've continued to see it all season, defensive backs are literally landing on him and putting all their body weight on him when they tackle him. And part of that may be the way he's going down that allows them to do that. But if he was a quarterback, they would be getting roughing the passer because you can't put your whole body weight on a quarterback when you tackle him. But they're doing that on Ladd, and he's a small guy. He's bigger than me, but he's a small guy. And so if I was him at this point until I'm healed up, absolutely. I'm catching the ball. And if I'm in any imminent tackle danger, I'm just going to take my yards and come back and fight. We need that kid on the field.
Yeah, I think what you just said is by design. If I was a corner, I'd be doing the same thing. I'm trying to hurt you because I know exactly how significant you are to the role of that offense. And it's look back to when we first played the Broncos. Before he went out for the whole game, guess who they put on Ladd? Surtain. Yeah. That says everything you need to know about what the NFL sees with our offense. Get on Ladd so I think it's totally by design. They want to smack him around because without him, we're literally like we just talked about. It's like, all right, Justin, good luck.
Yeah.
Like that crazy window to Palmer like summarizes the whole offense. Like
Dude,
Justin has to put it in like the 0% chance of like where the ball could fit.
There was no window
to succeed.
That wasn't a window.
Right.
That was like a magic trick. Okay. That's like, let me throw it through the door because there was no window. I was looking at that. When I saw it live, I'm like, huh? What? How the hell did Palmer catch that ball? And hats off to Josh, because that was not an easy catch. That ball come humming through there. But yeah, Justin's got a talent level that is pretty rare, and he needs to elevate these guys in this game in particular. He just has to. All these guys have to bring their A game, whatever that is. QJ needs to stop dropping balls for at least a week. And, who knows? Maybe we're going to get surprised. Somebody who we don't expect. Maybe Jalen Reagor all of a sudden just balls, dude. I mean, but we need somebody to step up. Bottom line, because we got to pass. Everything I'm looking at says we got to just light these guys up.
Well, while we're on the topic, I mean, I'm super confused at why we didn't go back to Will Dissly in last week, considering Herbert wasn't running, sitting there for time. He had time with the ball. Yeah. When Josh is, like we just talked about that catch, when that was one of his only receptions, this really says a lot about the separation with these guys. They can't do it. What the hell?
No.
So, yeah, like where was Dissly? And then Shark only having 2 receptions, and I didn't see him on the field. I don't know what I was watching, looking at other things, but I didn't see him.
Did he have a reception? Did you say he had 2 receptions?
No, sorry. He just played, or he played. Sorry, I said that wrong. But he only played 2 snaps.
2 snaps.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's just a part of me that's just like, what are you saying? Like, to me, this almost just sounds like off the field stuff now. Really, because when you look at this offense ain't doing anything. How you got to tell you're telling me it's a talent thing? I think there's more than that. To me, it jumps off as it's off the field stuff at this point. But I'm literally just talking on my butt here, guys. I have nothing. There's not been a quote anywhere. That's just the vibe I'm getting, because I don't know how you look at the receivers. No production, no separation, not a darn thing, and he's not getting some type of design plays. Come on. We saw what they were doing in the offseason with him. It's just a little weird to me.
Yeah, no, you're saying what we're all thinking.
Okay.
Right? At this point, his window opened. We activated him, so he's eligible. He was active last week, but he's not getting the reps. He's not getting targets. So what the hell? We did see what he did in the preseason and what he did in training camp. So,
and he doesn't remind me. He like has a big mouth. Like I don't have any.
He's quiet, dude.
Yeah, like personality wise, nothing like that sticks out. But it's just like I can't help myself. That's where my mind goes. Is like, what the heck are you saying? Like behind the scenes, like what is going on? Why are you not getting anything from the offense? We clearly need anything. Justin cannot do this stuff. Like, so
no,
yeah,
and we need separation. Okay, Justin's good. And you've seen some of these passes Justin makes, but give the guy a break, get a yard or 2, don't make each one of them a couple inches, give him a yard or 2, which Ladd does, Yeah. That's why I think easily Ladd is his favorite receiver. And I think Dissly's number 2 at this point, as far as Justin's preference of who he wants to throw the ball to, because he feels comfortable they're going to make the catch when the ball does go to him, and they're going to give him I think what he calls friendly. You're going to give him a friendly window or a friendly look for him to get the ball to him. So
you can hear it in my voice too. Like you guys can clearly tell how emotional I kind of got just speaking on that, but it's not like D Shark he doesn't play the slot like Ladd. He is in the rotation with the X and the Z. That's with Josh and with QJ. And you're telling me these guys with 2 receptions that have nothing to show for much of the season, that it really rubs me the wrong way, and it's upsetting, especially when you just see like the struggles that we're dealing with So I cannot help but think that there's just something else going on.
Yeah, the other thing, if it's not off the field, then it's on the field.
Sure.
Right? And so on the field would be he's not running precise routes. He's not where he's supposed to be, that sort of thing. He's cutting at the wrong distances, that sort of thing where either Justin or Sanjay, one of the coaches is like,
So you're thinking the same thing I am?
Oh, but he's only getting 2 reps. And the other game, not the last week, but the week before that, he was only on the field for 1 rep. And again, no target. So it's something.
Because it's not like the injury reports are saying, right, that he's still got anything lingering at this point?
No. And Lord knows we need every man up.
Totally. I think he's probably.
So then maybe why aren't we putting him down and bringing Brendan Rice up? If he's not cutting it, there's something we don't know out here in layman's land that maybe we'll learn, but inquiring minds want to know. Why isn't Chark, who's got the speed, who's got the hands, why is he not seeing action when we know we need reinforcements at that position?
Yeah, anyone who's watching this, if you guys want to chime in the comments or have anything to say, this is a fun conversation. I would love to get into it, and I would love to hear what you guys have to say, because at this point, that's all I can think of is, what is this dude going to the club after practice and they know it? Like, what the hell? Like, dude, Harbaugh's cool as hell. What is going on?
Yeah. Harbs might even give him a stack of 1s if he's going to the club.
Dude,
Harbs
totally.
may not go with him, but he's at least going to, hook him up so he has a good time. Let's hit the defense a little bit. I think we've covered the offense. You and I are of the same opinion here. Pass the ball first, second, third, and give Justin some opportunities to use his feet to keep their defense honest. But on our defensive side, what are you kind of seeing as our keys to this game? I think you touched a little bit on it already from the last meeting.
I'm going to say it again. It's take advantage of Jawan Taylor's mistakes. There's penalties to come from that. And then just winning reps, whether it's Joey or Khalil. And then most importantly, just take away the opportunities for Patrick to do what Patrick does. And that's extend plays, their black magic that they always do. But then it's like, I feel like Derwin can always play a good half with Kelsey. And this is all based off of the Staley regime, but hopefully we can get 2 halves of Derwin, making Travis Kelsey not a significant factor in this game. And I know on the other coin, they did pick up DeAndre Hopkins. Well, our corners are playing pretty good. But yeah, I think I would rather take my chances with Patrick's deep ball because I'm actually not – this is going to be a take that people are not going to like. I don't think Patrick's deep ball game is great, to be honest.
I'm gonna argue right now. His deep ball game is awesome because he gets the calls from the refs.
Okay, that is a great rebuttal. I cannot argue with you on that.
I didn't think
that is a great point.
He probably has more pass interference penalties than any other QB in the league for the last 3 or 4 years.
You know what? Now that we unpack this, screw that. Okay, we do not want to give him the flags because that's exactly how they're going to beat us. Just, sorry, guys. Ball at the play of the foul, red zone, Kelsey 5 and out, touchdown. We don't want that. All right. Screw that. It's out the window now. But no,
I want to complain against the refs, but I think it's pretty obvious. There might be a little bit of unevenness in how some things get called. But I agree with you. He is not the best deep ball thrower, but he puts it up there. And more times than not, you get a little yellow laundry on the field, and it's just as effective as if he had actually thrown, a really beautiful dart right in the bucket, and his receiver caught it. So he was better when he had, what was his name? The Cheetah?
Tyreek.
Yeah, because that guy would get so much separation. Patrick could kind of throw his eyes and just throw it as far as he could throw it. and the cheetah would go run under it. Well, he hadn't got that anymore. So, I think defensively, I think we can match up with these guys pretty good.
Yeah.
What we don't want to do is let him get out of the pocket and get those stupid 10, 12, 15-yard little runs where he runs like he's on ice and then goes down, and then you're like, shit, okay, there was another 3rd and 10 that we let slip by. We're better off kind of like we did against Cousins, which I don't think was by design because he's not mobile, but we're better off containing him in the pocket and just make him feel pressure versus really coming on strong and then breaking down on one of the edges or, God forbid, right up the middle, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. One thing I don't want to see is I don't want to see Isaac Pacheco and his little feet doing what he does. Kind of because we've been struggling the last 2 weeks with Derrick Henry, Bijan. I don't want to see because Pacheco didn't actually play last week. He didn't get any yards, or I don't even know if he got any snaps.
I think he's back this week.
So I'll tell you one thing. I don't want to see a Pacheco busting some big plays on us. I hope that we can get that under control too.
Yeah, well, and then, based on the team that we've seen so far, odds are pretty high they'll get theirs. Whether that's 100 yards, 120 yards, 130 yards rushing. The key is the bend don't break. If we can make the Chiefs kick field goals and punt occasionally, then our offense needs to step up and just outscore them. And that doesn't mean we need to put 40 on the board. Okay, if we can keep those guys to punts and field goals, and maybe we get lucky and he throws us one or two. Patrick's been known to throw us a couple balls. Maybe we get a couple extra possessions or something, but it's winnable. But we have to really be on point. We can't be as loose as we've been in some of these games with lesser opponents, because while these guys haven't been balling out on offense, we know what they're capable of doing, especially Kelsey. Your point about Kelsey, they need to just double him. I will take putting one of our DBs on DeAndre and doubling Kelsey.
That reminds me, I saw this video on Instagram with John Gruden, and it was, I forgot who the guys were. I can't remember their name off the top. Oh, Part of My Take. The Part of My Take guy said, it's Travis Kelsey. I forgot the play design, but it's like, you got to stop him. What's your coverage? This kid came up with some BS off the top of his head, and John's just like, you're full of it. But like, it made me think, what would I do? I'll tell you right now, you play zone against these guys, you're screwed. You give them any type of space. As to how Ladd is a friendly receiver to Justin, that's Kelsey can manipulate and he can lean into any open part of the field like nobody's business. There's a reason why he is so prolific as a tight end. We do against these guys. We play man and we double them, and double, like you said, double him particularly. So if that means putting Derwin on him and then having a little extra support on either way, because he is going to find that little spot on the field and make himself available.
If I were somebody on the defensive side of the ball and I had any challenges figuring out how I was going to cover Kelsey, I would go back to maybe the early 2000s when the Chargers with Phillip Rivers and Antonio Gates played the New England Patriots. And I would watch what Bill Belichick did to Antonio Gates. He would always take Gates away from us. That was the way he always attacked the games. I'm going to take your best player away, and you're going to have to beat me with the rest of your team. And so there were games he would triple Gates. He would triple him because Antonio was almost uncoverable. And so he's like, I'm just not going to let Gates beat us. Well, Kelsey's probably got more touchdowns against the Chargers than any other team in the NFL. I would speculate, or it's close between us and maybe the Raiders. But he's just eaten our lunch for years. And so I would make it a point of stopping him. I'd let DeAndre do his thing.
Yeah. Kirk, what you said is so right, man. That is such an insightful and a great thing to say when it comes to just like what can you learn from some of the greats and take something from, you're totally right. But you also got to add the fact that Patrick, you can do all you can do everything right. But that's the one thing that I give Patrick his greatness for is the gamer part of his skill.
Yeah.
Just makes something out of nothing. Extend that play that much longer.
Street ball.
Yeah, street ball. Totally. It's like street ball, and you find a way to win, and you always do it. It's like, damn, that's hard to beat.
Yeah. It is. I mean, and you got to appreciate Harbaugh, and you know what? You got to appreciate, what's his name, Sean Payton over in Denver too. By the way, it really pained me to see them win that game last night. I really thought Jameis Winston was going to pull that out.
We do have to talk about that at some point before we wrap this up. We really do, as we when we talk about expectations with this team, how this is unfolding, because yeah, we'll get into it, but it is a conversation we need to have.
Denver is nipping at our heels, and we've got them Thursday night. That got flexed Thursday night on the 19th. So we've got the Chiefs this week, Tampa next week, and then the Donkeys. So yeah, they're nipping at our heels. I was really hoping that Jameis would knock them down a notch, and they should have. I mean, they had every opportunity to win that game, but Denver's gamer, man. And you got to appreciate Harbs. You got to appreciate Sean coming into the AFC West and going, I understand. Andy Reid has dominated this division for a decade, and I'm still going to come into this division with Andy and Mahomes. And if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And especially like Harbaugh says, competitors welcome. So we get another crack this week. And again, this is our first season in this new era. So enjoy it. We may end up at the end of the game being disappointed, but still enjoy the journey, right? Don't just want to be instantly at the destination. Enjoy this journey of watching this team come from where they were at to where they're going. And everybody on this team, they're not satisfied with just making the playoffs. Okay, Harb said it in his introductory press conference. Super Bowls, plural. Okay, and so let's enjoy this journey. It's so refreshing to have a team that's not a finished product still winning games. It's, ugly games, and the talent on this team is incredible. So don't want to preach to anybody, but we do need to touch on that. Let's wrap up. We didn't talk special teams going into KC, but poor special teams. Keep doing what you guys are doing. Okay. Dicker, you keep nailing kicks, my man. JK, keep flipping the field on us. You're doing good. Your hang time's awesome. And, Double D, we might need you this game. So if you can, get one or two really nice punt returns and change the field position, that would be awesome as well. Let's talk injuries like we do, kind of where we're at in that. The new injury, if you want to call it that, it's been a lingering injury, but out of this game I think it's worse, is Ladd's shoulder. It looked like it was really bothering him. And I didn't go back and look, but I don't know if he even got any receptions in the second half. If he did, it was like one or two. I mean, we only put up 40 yards in the second half, so I don't know if he really contributed much. You could tell he was in noticeable pain. So we got to pay attention to Ladd. Dobbins, he's out at least 3 more games. Denzel, I hope we get him back this week. That would be really nice, especially with Pacheco coming through the hole. I'd love to see Denzel filling that hole. So I hope he's good. And then 2 DBs. Asante, still not hearing a peep. All Harbaugh is saying is, he's dealing with something. Haven't heard anything about him coming back, which is really odd. I like Asante a lot. He's a gamer, super talented. I believe this is a contract year for him, if I am not mistaken.
Absolutely. This is it.
So I hope this is truly just injury related and it's nothing else. I've fully been expecting to see him re-signed. You don't let good DBs go typically, but we do have Tarheeb and Cam. And Cam's the other one that's out. I don't know the nature of his severity. He was an ankle and a concussion. I suspect he's well past the concussion protocol. So if he can run on that ankle, we may see him back this week. But those are kind of who I have on the radar injury-wise. I don't know if you've got anybody else or any new news to share with anybody.
No. I do get kind of a bad feeling about what's going on with Sante. I don't know what it is. I just get this weird vibe about what's kind of going on. It's based off of really nothing. There's been kind of small conversations, little seeds here and there off some other podcasts, but nothing that's legitimate. Just gives me a bad vibe. But no, you covered the injuries, and I didn't realize we were an hour into this. So yeah, I was like, yeah, we can start getting into, I guess, what was the conversation that we said we wanted to have before we ended? It was just kind of like expectations.
Yeah, I as I was preparing for this podcast, I came to the realization that after 12 weeks, we are who we are. It's kind of where I ended up at mentally. I'm like, we've been hoping, expecting evolution as weeks go by and the team learns the scheme and they learn chemistry and camaraderie and just, all the things that make a team. Well, we're 12 games in now. And I kind of came away through my thought process preparing for the pod that we are who we are at this point. Between injuries, the roster that we've got, sure, Ortiz can, turn around and add somebody like he did with May last week. He can add somebody. But in the grand scheme of things, is he adding a T. Higgins? Okay, that's not happening. The trade deadline's passed. He's going to add somebody, if he does, that's already floating out there on the wire, that's unrestricted, that he can, they're sitting on their couch right now hoping they get signed. So we are who we are at this point. And what I mean by that in a grander scheme is our defense is carrying the load. Our offense has shortcomings. I don't necessarily think they're scheme related. I think, the defense, the scheme related part is Jesse's got a great scheme and the guys are playing well, and we've got more talent over on that side of the ball. On the offensive side, we've already touched on it, Andrew. Our interior offensive line desperately needs work if we are going to become the bully that Harbaugh wants us to be on offense, to control the line of scrimmage. We are clearly not controlling the line of scrimmage at this point with our interior. And then we need a couple skill positions. We need a wide receiver one to complement Ladd. And we need a true pass-catching tight end. I think those are the two chess pieces that Herbert needs going forward. But we're not going to get those right now. Okay, so for the rest of this season, this is my, if you want to call it an epiphany. We are who we are at this point for the rest of this season. Okay, and by the way, hats off to Harbaugh, Menor, Roman, for coaching these guys up, because this team, if you just look at the roster, I could argue that this team is worse than last year's team. I can make that argument that roster-wise, we're maybe not as robust as we were last season, but the coaching is head and shoulders better. So instead of being a 5-12 team, we're currently 8-4, heading towards something, much better than we were last season. And that has to do with scheme and coaching. And then, of course, Ortiz adding some quality, maybe underrated pieces. So the defense is further along than the offense. The offense is still missing some key pieces. And, don't expect us to magically, for the rest of the season, become something that's different than what we've seen so far. And so I think we'll make the playoffs. The odds are super high. It's in the 90s that we're going to make the playoffs. Do I think we'll make the Super Bowl? I do not. I think the road to getting to the Super Bowl with the team we currently have, could we do it? Sure. We're going to need a lot of luck, or something's going to have to change just like a light switch clicks on offense. And all of a sudden, we look different. But after 12 games, that's why I kind of came to this. After 12 games, we are who we are. There isn't going to be a light switch that gets flipped, and all of a sudden we are this dominant bully of an offense. So that was kind of my thoughts as I prepared for this podcast is, all right, I'm kind of come to the realization this is the team we've got this season, and I'm happy about it. I'm content. I would love to see us go to the Super Bowl, but I don't want to have unrealistic expectations either. So I know that was kind of rambly, and I was a little all over the place with that. That's typically how my thoughts are most of the time. But I wanted to bring it up in this podcast. I think 12 games is enough to kind of know who we are.
Yeah, right? Yeah, we're on the same page.
Yeah, and we're not finishing second halves on offense, right? I don't know why we can have a really good first half and then have a letdown in the second half. But that's kind of who we are right now. So,
yeah. I mean, then that's the thing is like with the Atlanta game, I had room for like, okay, let's see what happens. And the fact that we just didn't make a leap and kind of the performance that we did put out just kind of solidifies everything you just kind of said. I just hope going forward we don't regress, and then going 0-3 in these next 3 games is we can't have that. We got to win one of these 3, and hopefully it's the Broncos at least, because the Broncos have done nothing but they're right there making it a problem for us. So they are an issue as far as the postseason goes. So like I said, we cannot go 0-3.
No, and it pains me that the Broncos are gamers, man.
Yeah.
They're scrappy. You know, this rookie quarterback, he's got some game to him. You know, Sean Payton's still Sean Payton as far as his coaching capabilities and his schemes. So, you know, this could be a 3-headed monster for a while with, you know, clearly the Chiefs still being at the top of that pyramid, if you will, until somebody comes along and knocks him off. And I've been expecting, you know, ultimately it'll be Harbs based on his record and his, you know, his status as a head coach. But until you do it, it hasn't been done. And after 12 games, I'm kind of sitting here. Please don't hate on me. But if you guys have comments to the contrary or supporting it, please put them in the comments. But with the team we're sitting on right now, I don't think that this 2024 Chargers is not the team that's going to unseat the Chiefs. 2025, all bets are freaking off.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Because Ortiz is going to go work some more of his magic. But this team, after 12 games, we are who we are.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it.
Yeah. So that's really all I wanted to share with you guys is that was my personal thought process, epiphany, if you will, is, okay, we've seen enough. We know who these guys are, and we know where their shortcomings are, and we know where their assets and their, you know, their good qualities are, you know, where they excel. And so let's ride with it and see how far we can get. So if you don't have anything to add to that, then let's talk real quick about the standings and get into Chiefs game projections and put a bow on this thing.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, we already talked about the Chiefs pulling out another ugly win against the Raiders because the Raiders raided. I'm going to make something for that. That's going to be, I want to pin that tail on that donkey. That, you know, everybody said we chargered. Well, the Raiders are raidering. So the Chiefs are freaking 11-1.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about one of the ugliest 11-1s I think I've ever seen in my lifetime of watching football. These guys are figuring out how to win ugly games. We pulled out our win. We're sitting at 8-4. The Donkeys pulled that one out last night against Jameis Winston and the Browns, which I was really rooting for. And by the way, Jerry Jeudy pulled out, dude. They should have won that game because of him. I mean, he 300 yards or something. I mean, he was letting the fans have it too. Bless his heart. I'm not big on showboating, but the fact that he was in, hostile territory and he started the season as a Bronco and got traded to the Browns, it's like, no, you go, dude. You just do it. You have every right, at least right now, to, the thing on the goal line falling backwards. I'm not too big a fan of that. Go all the way in the end zone and then fall backwards.
Yeah, no, I was like, what are you doing?
That's not, I've never been cool with that. That's why I love LT, right? LT had a very simple celebration, act like you've been there, like Barry Sanders, and then go back and huddle back up. So the Donkeys are sitting at 8-5. They're nipping at our friggin' heels. But if they do catch us, it doesn't mean we're out of the playoffs. It just means we may drop a seed, and depending on what Baltimore does, we may drop a seed anyway, because we've been flip-flopping now for the last several weeks with Baltimore. So it looks like it's a three-way race for 3 spots.
Right.
And it's just kind of going to be who ends up where, 5th, 6th, or 7th. I really don't care at this point. Like I kind of preceded this discussion with, we are who we are at this point. If we make the playoffs and we can, make a good showing in the playoffs, awesome. We can do that from the 5th seed, the 6th seed, or the 7th seed. So, but that's what it's coming down to right now. Game predictions.
Okay.
Last week wasn't pretty.
Way off. I mean, we all got surprised.
Our offense let us down. We thought this was the get right game for the offense. And yes, we're homers. It's true. We're Chargers fans and we bleed Charger blue. But it had all the makings of us getting right. But look, the Falcons got a talented roster and those guys get paid too. So they came and battled us. Luckily, we got the W. But Brennan had 35-7. So his legend status that he was hoping for didn't come to fruition. So sorry, Brennan, no legend status this week. Andrew, you were 31-17. A little bit better than Brennan, but not much.
No.
And then me, I was 28-13. So, okay, I got the 13 right, but I was still off by 11 points on the Chargers. So none of us had a good showing. So this week, Brennan's not with us, so no votes in abstention for him. I'll go ahead and just put mine out there. This is going to be a dogfight. I think we might be surprised of what points get put up. I don't think it's going to be 40s. We're not going to battle it like that, but we're not going to be in the, teens or single digits. I think, there's going to be some scoring, but it's going to be a dogfight. The Chiefs offense isn't super high powered like they used to be. And our defense is super strong. We talked about it already. So I'm going 21-20 Chargers. I can't go against my boys. We need this game desperately. I put my faith in Harbaugh that he's going to have these guys fired up, and G-Row and Mentor are going to pull off just enough for us to get this. But I could just as easily see this flip, and Casey gets that last field goal, and beats us by a few points. But I think it's going to be a tight game. We always play these guys tight. So that's my number. I'm sticking with it. 21-20 Chargers.
Nice, man. Heck yeah. The thing you have to say, like, trap games happen. This could easily be a trap game for them. It could happen. But based off of the Atlanta Falcons performance that we had, I can't lean with our boys this week. I'm just going to keep it real here. I got the Chiefs winning 24-17. We always play them close. I don't think it's going to be this. I hope it's not a blowout. But that's just kind of how I see it playing out. If things would have went a little different last week, I have no problems with shooting the moon and hoping our guys could squeak one out. But that was just one of those disappointing losses where you're like, well, we're going to have to really get creative against the Chiefs. So that's where I stand, guys. That's my prediction.
If you're going to have me put odds on it, I would say the odds are for the Chiefs to win. Yeah. I have to be honest in that. But if I'm going to make a game prediction, as a Chargers fan, we did play them tough last time. We talked about all of this already. Now we've got Slater and Alt back, and there is a recipe to beat these guys. Of course. We do match up well with them. So it's not going to be a blowout, I don't think, either way. I'd be shocked if either team just runs away from the other. But, I got to go with my boys, and I can't fault you at all. I mean, you're keeping it real. Appreciate you not going more for the Chiefs. So
it's the Atlanta performance for me, man. If it wasn't 40 yards in the second half and everything we saw, like, I would go with the Chargers, because of like the trap game thing, the possibilities. But it's like after that, I'm like, sorry, boys, not this week.
I will make a prediction. If we only have 40 yards in the second half of the Chiefs game, we will lose that game.
Yeah.
Period. All right, man. Well, any parting thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I think we got it all unpacked. I think it was a good podcast, guys. I think there's a lot of conversations that we had. So hopefully we get some friends in there and we can keep this conversation going in the comments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love getting you guys comments. So let's wrap it up. There you have it for another episode of ChargersCast. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us and talking ball. Definitely leave us comments. Really appreciate it. It's why we're doing it. We could just as easily hang out with ourselves, have a nice cold one, and talk ball. But we prefer to hang out, have a nice cold one, and talk ball with you guys. So appreciate you tuning in. Leave us comments below, all that good stuff. If you haven't already subscribed, do so. And otherwise, we will be back next week for another episode of ChargersCast, where we will rehash how the Sunday night game in Arrowhead goes with the Chiefs, and then look forward to the game that's going to be in SoFi with Baker Mayfield and the Bucks. So for Kirk, for Andrew, by the way, if you haven't already done so, go check out Andrew on Instagram at Bolt Casa, and please go check me out, ChargersCast. That's easy. For myself and Andrew, that's it for another episode of ChargersCast. Andrew, you know the drill, brother. Who's got it better than us?
Nobody.
Nobody, man. Win or lose.
That's right.
Win or lose. Nobody. See you guys next week.
4 seconds left in the game, but this is likely the final play that matters. End zone wide open. What a night for Mike Williams. And the Chargers have their first lead of the night.
Hi, I'm Kirk Brewer, the creator and host of ChargersCast. I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of ChargersCast. We really appreciate you engaging with the podcast. When I created ChargersCast, it was intended to be a podcast about everything Los Angeles Chargers from a fan perspective. It's by fans and for fans. So it's for you, and we really appreciate you being here. If you haven't done so already, please go down below, leave a comment, give us some feedback. We really love to hear from you. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and click the little bell so that you get notifications when new content drops. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to ChargersCast. And who's got it better than us? Nobody.